This is the How Design Live podcast, hosted by programming partner Ilise Benun, national speaker, author of 7 business books for creative professionals, and founder of marketing-mentor.com. Listen to her lively conversations with past and future How Design Live speakers about the business of creativity and creativity in business. Here's Ilise Benun.
If you want better clients, your dream clients, whether you're a solopreneur, freelancer, or agency owner, I'll bet you haven't used your boundless creativity to go get them. That always surprises me, that creative professionals seem to leave their creativity at the door when they turn their attention to the business side of their creative business. Now, maybe you're just not sure how to bring your creativity to the business side. Well, after you hear this podcast interview with Jake Jorgovan, you won't be able to use that excuse any longer. Jake is one of the speakers at the Get Better Clients Bootcamp presented by Marketing Mentor. It's a half-day intensive that's priced so you almost can't afford not to be there on May 2nd, 2017 in Chicago. The entire session will focus on answering this one essential question that keeps agency owners and independent creatives alike up at night. How do I get better clients? Every speaker, and that includes Debbie Millman, Ryan Robinson, Terry Trespicio, and more, will have a different answer to that all-important question. It will be a simple idea or a practical tactic that can be implemented immediately. So here's Jake's Listen and Learn. Hello, Jake. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on, Ilise.
Of course. Good to speak with you. And let's begin, as always, by having you introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, so my name is Jake Jorgovan, and I run a business called Outbound Creative, where I help agencies and consultants win more clients. And I also blog regularly at jake-jorgovan.com.
Beautiful. And we are talking because you're going to be coming to How Design Live in 2017 in Chicago. And I'm excited about that because you're joining me for the Get Better Clients Bootcamp, which is a half-day intensive happening on May 2nd in the morning. And so I just wanted to briefly chat with you about your presentation, your piece of this intensive puzzle. And the title of your session is called Using Your Creativity to Win New Clients. And I like that idea because I do find that most creative people leave their creativity at the door when it comes to the business side of their business, especially sometimes the marketing, because they don't like it. And so talk to me about, give us a little taste of what you're going to present and how you help or what your advice is for people integrating their creativity into their marketing, essentially.
Yeah, so at the core, one of the things that I think a lot of creative business owners miss over is this opportunity that they have to be creative in how they actually approach clients. I just see so many people that just, they do all this creative work, all this amazing designs or whatever it is that they're doing for their clients. But then whenever they try to think about how to grow their business, they just follow whatever advice they find on a blog post or just, all the standard things that everybody else is doing. And they don't ever kind of try anything different or outside of the box. And so over the past year and a half or so, I started really experimenting around with some different creative approaches to win new customers with really a lot of times using these physical mailers as something just really unique to step outside of the box. And then I discovered that there's actually a lot of people doing this kind of interesting things where you just try to think a little differently about how you approach your clients, where you're not just sending them an email, but maybe you're doing something that steps above and beyond and really stands out. And so that's kind of what a lot of the presentation is going to be sharing some of those stories, some of those anecdotes and examples of campaigns that I've run in the past, as well as campaigns that I've seen other successful people use as well.
So wait a minute. You're talking about using snail mail to reach people? What is this?
Yeah, so that's one of the big ways that I've seen this used a lot, and one of the things that we've done quite a bit of, and not just snail mail, but also really eye-catching mail. So when I literally launched my agency about a year and a half ago, one of the things that we did to get our first customers is, I realized that we didn't need a lot of customers, and most agencies or creative businesses don't need a lot. You need, maybe 5 or 6 or 7 really good clients, and you'd be in a great spot. So what I did is I went through and I looked at my network of who all the warm connections were, who could become customers for the new service I had. And then I also identified, about 10 customers who I didn't have connections with that were totally cold. And I literally bought a bunch of encyclopedias from this thrift store that were like vintage old 70s or 80s encyclopedias, hollowed them all out, and then on the inside put a wax sealed letter. I had a little scroll in there, and like the letter had their name handwritten on it. And then there was actually a little link to a video where I had a custom video for that individual where I kind of just literally talked on camera for about 2 or 3 minutes to them and put together this whole kind of wow experience to capture their attention. And it was just like an amazing launch to the agency, and we literally got our first few clients through doing a little, kind of creative, out-of-the-box, different campaign like that.
And wow was the word in my mind as you were describing hollowing out the encyclopedia. And I'm thinking, wow, that sounds like it takes a lot of time. This sounds very labor intensive. Is it?
It's, it depending on the creative idea, it gets more labor intensive than others. But a lot of this stuff is surprisingly actually a lot of work. Hollowing out encyclopedias, the first few I did on my own, and then I found someone on Craigslist to start helping out with that. So I did a few, and it was like...
What was his title?
It was the most ridiculous posting of like, I need someone to just hollow out encyclopedias with an X-Acto knife, which is a very long, painstaking process. So
That's funny. Okay, and I'm being a little facetious here, asking you about the time because, yes, of course, marketing takes time. But I think the other point that I'm hoping you will make very strongly is that, as you said, you don't need hundreds or thousands of prospects and clients. You need X number of really good, well-chosen, carefully selected, perfect fit prospects for you, right?
Yeah, that's the idea. And I think that most people, when they start thinking about marketing or business development, they just think, how can I get more clients? And if instead you do something like this that's very, very targeted toward people that maybe if you have warmth to them, that makes it even better. But otherwise, one of the other things that I did with other companies is I try to look for triggers, or I tried to look for other agencies that were hiring for a sales rep, or I saw something from the owner on Twitter mentioning business development or something like that. So literally looking also for triggers when you're doing this kind of outreach to dial that in and find people that meet your criteria, that are exactly who you want to work with, and also are showing some signs that they'd be a good fit or someone who could buy from you as well.
What are those signs?
It all definitely depends on the business, but I mean, one of the simple triggers that I'm working with a UX design agency right now, and simply put, if someone's hiring for a UX designer, they probably need help. And we found that a lot of times they will hire someone on a contract basis while they're looking for a full-time hire. And so that's been one, very simple, kind of obvious avenue. Another thing could be, there's a lot of marketing agencies where you see maybe they're doing something totally wrong on their site with how they've set up some of the technology or the retargeting or the AdWords or something like that. So, or maybe they're just, their design's dated or broken or something on their site's not working. But looking at just something that you can see that is a signal to you that you could help them, or that they have shown some intent to buy your services at some point in the near future.
And that reminds me of a question people are often asking me, which is when you do notice, especially something they're doing wrong, you can't, or that their website is out of date or ugly, God forbid. You can't go to them and say, your website is really ugly. I can make it better for you. What is your strategy for approaching people who are, who you can help, but you don't want to offend them? How do you do that without being offensive?
Yeah, so actually, and give you kind of an anecdote of another example of this is we also did a handful of campaigns where no physical mail at all, but what we did is we recorded critique videos looking at the prospect's website. So we did this for a handful of copywriters and kind of funnel management people and conversion rate people, and we saw that this worked really well in those kind of areas. But the big thing we would do is we would compliment them first of all on the things that they were doing right, and then when we did put out their ideas or suggestions, we would say, you might already be working on this, or you may already be aware of this. And so we try not to just say you're not doing this, because a lot of times they may know, yeah, my website's not responsive, or it's dated, but you don't need to kind of drive the nail in. So just complimenting them, saying, hey, here's something we think could be improved. Not sure if this is on your radar or not, but trying not to approach it from here's everything wrong, but here's some things that we noticed that you probably may already be aware of, and just putting it in that less kind of threatening or negative tone.
Mm-hmm. And I like what you're talking about with the use of video, critique videos or a personalized message. I imagine that at some point in the future, those are going to be kind of, oh yeah, everyone's doing it. But at this point, it still seems very much like, oh wow, this person took the time to actually speak directly to me. And it feels very, personalized, right? Is that your impression?
Yeah, and we've done a lot of that. We've done some where we've just hopped on camera and then just emailed out a quick link to with a video of us talking to the prospect and kept it short and sweet. We've also done the screen shares where we critique the prospect's website or their web presence or their online marketing and sent them a quick video with just some of those ideas and everything we mentioned. So yeah, it's something where doing that, it literally, there's not that much barrier. Even the videos, when we're sending them out, we're not using a massive professional setup. It's really just kind of a decent webcam against a backdrop of a wall, and just keeping it really simple and raw, nothing too polished. And it gets above and beyond. And we've had people, respond that are like, wow, no one's ever sent me something like this before. So.
Mm-hmm. And I imagine actually, the difference between an email message, even in the nicest, framing it the nicest possible way, telling them something is wrong or that you can help, can be so much more easily interpreted or misinterpreted than an actual video where they see or hear your voice talking about the problems, right?
Yeah, there's just so many things where you just, when you get someone to that video, it just, in a sense, it's groundbreaking, and it just gives you, like you said, it's less room for misinterpretation, because there's so many just subtleties of how someone can read what you say, or could that be appear as negative. And it's just way harder because when people read emails, they're skimming, especially emails from someone they don't know. And so when you're doing this kind of video outreach, you're basically writing an email to try to get them to the video. And then in the video, hopefully that hooks them and they become interested in what you have to say.
Right. Interesting. All right. Before we wrap up, any final suggestions or tips? Because I know in the session you're going to share some actual examples, but what if between now and May 2nd, when people come, what should they be doing? What should they try? What should they be thinking about? Yeah,
so a few other things I'd say is that you have to realize with any form of outreach that you can't expect to send out 3, even if you do the all-out physical packages, you can't expect to send out 2 or 3 and win a customer. It still is a numbers game, because you don't ultimately know if someone has someone else in mind, or what their buying process is or their buying cycle. So It does still take a numbers game. So if you do the physical packages or you do the videos, you realize you start have to send probably 10 to 15 to hopefully have, 3 to 5 to 6 conversations. And then hopefully out of those close 1 to 2 deals. So you need to have, first of all, that mentality of doing a decent quantity if you're doing any form of cold outreach. Another thing is not to aim too big is a problem that we hit with a few clients where we got them meetings with really big companies, but ultimately those companies were like, yeah, you're not at a level where we're going to hire you. We're going to go with a bigger agency or someone with more experience. You also need to be realistic at who you actually decide to target. Otherwise, it'll all be kind of in waste. Even if you actually get the meetings, you won't end up being able to close them. And those would probably be two of the big things I would have to say. Oh, and follow up would be the last one of, just because you send a really cool package or you send a video doesn't mean it's going to break through or that they're going to respond to you. You still need to follow up, 3, 4, 5, 6 times to really get someone to respond and engage. It's even when you do the physical mailers, it's incredible how many people still won't respond until you email them 2 or 3 times to try to get their attention.
Right. So I love that. I mean, you're talking about, number one, choosing the right people and being realistic about who you approach. And that's a whole process in and of itself. And having the right expectation so that you aren't easily discouraged or frustrated, because I do get a lot of messages from people who are frustrated by the fact that their outreach isn't producing, even if they're using their creativity. And the follow-up that basically keeps it going and doesn't waste your initial investment in all that time and effort up front to reach out in the first place. Because I see that a lot too. People just give up if, I can't believe they didn't respond to me. I went to all that trouble and almost take it personally.
Yeah, and that's just the thing. You just got to realize people are busy. You never know what scenario they're in. When you email them, they could be at a conference. They could be traveling or just buried under tons of work or anything. So it takes following up over the course of several weeks, and it just may just be that email hits them at the right time when they finally have a breath and they say, okay, I'm going to get back to them this time. So yeah.
Right. And I personally would always put someone like that you've invested that much time and effort into on an auto drip list for my to get my email newsletter or some kind of ongoing communication, because you never know if even further down the line, a year from now, they may say, okay, I remember that and now I'm ready.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Getting them engaged with that, because that's the other thing with outreach. Like I mentioned, you never know the buying cycle or the buying process. So when you're used to getting referrals or inbound leads, those people are ready to buy right now, which is why they've ended up coming to you. But when you do outreach, again, you're going to hit, sometimes you get lucky and someone's like, let's start right now. And that's always amazing. But a lot of times what you get are, yeah, okay, so that's actually, we're looking to dive into that project in, the next 3 months or in Q1 of next year. Can we talk more then? So you get a lot of that you do have to kind of follow up on. And it's a longer sales cycle than when you get a nice referral that just kind of landed in your lap. So.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right. This is all excellent information that people can act on immediately or come hear what you have to say at the Get Better Clients Bootcamp at How Design Live on May 2nd, 2017 in Chicago. So tell people again where they can find you, Jake.
Yeah. And one other thing, I will send you some photos of that vintage book that you can put in this post so everyone can take a look at that with the podcast episode as well. But if people want to find out more about me online, they can go to jake-jorgovan.com or outboundcreative.com. And then I also have an upcoming book that I am writing which they can find out more about at winyourdreamclients.com.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Jake.
Thanks for having me on, Ilise.
All right. We'll see you in Chicago. Doesn't that make you want to know more? If so, come see Jake live and in person at the Get Better Clients Bootcamp. That's May 2nd, 2017 in Chicago. You can come for one day, then get back to work, or come for all 5 days of How Design Live and soak it all in. You can find the details at howdesignlive.com. You can also find more podcasts at marketingmentorpodcast.com and howdesign.com. So thanks for listening, and I'll be back again soon with more conversations about the business of creativity and creativity in business.
You've been listening to the How Design Live podcast with Ilise Benun, the programming partner for How Design Live. You can subscribe to this podcast in the iTunes Store or on SoundCloud. We hope you found it both inspiring and practical, like everything How Live. And we hope to see you at the next How Design Live, May 2nd through 6th, 2017 in Chicago. Get all the details at www.howdesignlive.com.